lies, deception, manipulation, and victimization. Scoobytopia was once a YouTuber who enjoyed making videos about the Scooby-Doo franchise, but then everything changed when he made a video about the show called Velma. Velma is a show that everyone hated because it took beloved characters and shitted on them in a horrible way. I'm sure you guys know the rest of how the story goes, so feel free to watch my part 1 video about how Scoobytopia quit YouTube for the 100th time this year. This video is once again about the commenter by the name of Random Comment, but this time myself as well, and a bit of Scoobytopia. Well, a lot of Scoobytopia. And as always, my lovely comment reader. I find it interesting that he said my video made him cry. Time to tackle the situation. Key things he said about my video that I will be tackling is 1. He claims I made nasty snide remarks about how he was a bad guy and wasn't unbiased. 2. He claimed I assumed he didn't know how to use YouTube features to limit hate. 3. He said I dismissed his feelings. 4. He said I claimed he only got 3 mean comments and couldn't handle it alone. 5. He claimed I said he had no right to defend himself while I defended people who harassed him and celebrated it happening. 6. He claims I said that if he responded, he was reactionary. 6 things to tackle, but good news, I don't even have to do any work to tackle them. Firstly, I didn't make any snide remarks about him in my video, and you can watch it to see for yourself. I kept it decent. Now for the rest of the points. If you don't feel like combing through an hour-long video, roll the instant replay. I don't know if he's aware, but you can ban certain words and phrases from being posted automatically in the YouTube settings, and I'm pretty sure you can also hold certain comments up for review before it's officially posted. I personally don't know what those comments said because I wasn't reading them. And even if I was, the Velma video was 2 months ago and I consumed too many. I wouldn't even remember. Wow, right off the bat, I don't know if he's aware. It was helpful advice in case he wasn't, and I didn't assume anything. Next, I usually have videos playing in the background while I'm working or gaming. However, scrolling through the comments and search for negative ones to try and keep a clean community sounds taxing. The backlash could seem bigger than what it was because of that. I think South Park did an episode like this.
It's a pretty brutal job sifting through all that darkness.
So it's understandable if you got tired and wanted to take a break or leave. If you ever do decide to come back, I would suggest making use of those features for your mental state. Never tell someone to do any self-deletions just because they don't align. You never know someone's mental state and if they actually will. And I really think the internet has taken away most people's empathy. It's so easy to say things when you're not looking directly into someone's face. Ah yes, very dismissive. Next point. A break or leave YouTube is very much warranted if that's what you felt like you needed. But I do think you let them win, and then you use YouTube's creator settings to their full advantage. If you have any friends that you trust with your channel, there's even YouTube moderator settings where you can add them in to help you delete negative comments. I think the main problem is you were doing this alone and did let it get to your head a bit. Again, a helpful suggestion and not a claim that you can't handle anything alone. But we will come back to this one later for something he says in my comment section. People, last I checked, this video was about just you and one other commenter, and that commenter got backlash for giving context to a comment you cut out of context. I didn't celebrate anything, and I said this. Cards on the table, while still being objective, nobody is right. Now, to be clear, the commenter, other people coming to this, so we're just gonna call them random, had a right to clear up the comment that was cut, while Scoobytopia is well within his rights to express his frustration and what he's been going through. But there's a time and a place, and this was not the time nor that place. Would you look at that? I called out both of your and the other commenter's faults, also reiterated later with, Random was once again making a good point. Being bullied doesn't excuse or absolve the person of their later actions, and admitting to doing it deliberately doesn't change or remove the previous comments where you made explicitly clear what you thought of this person beforehand. You painted Random in a certain light with your responses. Yes, once again, Random did come across as apathetic, but you contributed to it and didn't try having a conversation. Also, this comment proves you were the one who started mocking Random, and Random retaliated. Everything I pointed out directly disproves this. You were in the wrong for how you handled your start of your replying streak. The only thing I can really say that they're wrong was calling your bullying experience a sob story. But even then, how you conduct yourself as a person with a following still needs to be called out. Once again, I called out one of Randall's replies to you apathetic because you talked about getting hate, but also kept it fair because Randall was not one of your haters, and you went off on them. Just say you want people to pick your side only and nobody else's. Oh, this is also an easy one because you used an example of me using your own logic against you in a clip I can play all together. The response Scoobytopia gives is,
why be so angry that you're writing Les Mis rebels towards the idea of me making videos and how I do them? Hi, interjecting once again, why are you so angry about a commenter you put in your video giving context? I never said you had to watch the other videos anyways. I pointed out your dishonesty in saying you would have to had watched my other videos to know that. Wow. Yes, I didn't say you had to watch my other videos. I said you had to watch my other videos, otherwise you're dishonest. Makes sense. And now your comment that was right to be included is no longer included. Anything of you is scrubbed except your own admittance to being rude. The problem is solved, story over. Anything of you is scrubbed except your own admittance to being rude. The problem is solved, story over. Firstly, there was no rude admittance. Secondly, you started the argument. Third, you scrubbed everything so you could lie.
You're writing about the idea of me making a video and how I do them. You mean criticism? Okay, let's play a game. If Scoobytopia or anyone makes a response video to this one, then all they're doing is writing Les Mis rebels towards the idea of me making videos and how I do them. Let's see how well that holds up. And this was honestly a great final point to end on, because you ironically went on to write Les Mis rebels in my comment section days after this community post. Transition time to the new controversy. Now, before we continue, I just want to say prepare yourselves. Scoobytopia is so long-winded in these reply sections. I offered 2 times for him to collaborate with me on the video, so we can just do some recorded Discord call and make things easier, or at least be straightforward and send text messages. But no, let's not forget he was upset and even put it in his quitting post that it bothered him so much that I didn't reach out for his side of events. And now when I do, because I think he would actually engage, he shuts down the attempt. So you kind of proved me right, and all we have to work with is his replies in my comment section. So let's go. Actually, I made a change to my script because there's going to be a change of plans. This is why I wanted to collab. This guy is so long-winded, and I want to keep this video short and sweet. Having to do what I did last time seems like a chore, so you will just have to get the cliff notes of what happened.
A harmless comment that was clearly made in bad faith, followed by hours of harassment with this person obsessively replying every few minutes for 8 or 9 hours straight, ultimately posting on Reddit to talk about me negatively to strangers who had no context. I didn't even know about this Reddit post until this video defended him as an innocent victim who was misunderstood or censored, never doing anything wrong. This type of situation is why I chose to step away in the first place.
Okay, so for the first part of his comment, I have to disagree with everything. First off, the comment was harmless, and you came at them in a disrespectful way. You can lie in your comment, but you can't lie about the past with provided screenshots and evidence.
Don't claim I'm a hater and only show the end of my comment without full context of what I said. 253. If anyone is curious, here's a copy and paste, and even if you find it in the original video, his only reason for disagreeing with my comment is because of the end, which shows he never bothered to actually read it. Not to mention, he's only now saying he dislikes the series. The entire ending of his video was him saying nothing but praise and how much he liked the season, which is why I said it felt more like an opposition than a neutral take, because he said nothing about what he disliked. But I guess this is me hating on his eyes. Here it is. Gotta disagree with you on most things. I feel like you give this show too much credit/leeway simply because it's a Scooby-Doo project. The mysteries are not interesting for one simple fact. There is no mystery. Remember what Velma said in season 1? This is her origin story on how she started Mystery Inc. Yet the only people who even does any real investigation are everyone but Velma. Fred even started his own mystery company in season 1. And outside of that, the answers just reveal themselves to the characters. Velma looks at the design of her glasses after years and just knows it's Fred's family who is behind the hypnosis. Velma doesn't get killed by a killer and just knows it's the stepmom. There wasn't any actual build-up to who it was, and the stepmom was pretty insignificant until it was brought up. Okay, hold on. Let's take a quick moment for me to interject mid-script. I've also seen Scoobytopia's Velma video and distinctly remember him saying the stepmom being the killer made sense. Just wanted to bring that up because this seems to be one of those things Random disagrees with. Back to the script. Velma's whole thing this season is that she's convinced it's Fred's mom again and doesn't look for the real killer and spends a lot of episodes doing unrelated things. The only time she actually investigates is when Norville's grandma sent her out to do it and not of her own accord. This is the problem with self-inserts. No matter what, Velma will get the glory but doesn't actually put in work, while ironically, it's Fred who has the most character development and growth, yet he is the punching bag for being white. This show is probably the worst Scooby-Doo property. Yes, over 50 years, there are bound to be flops here and there. However, there's a difference between trying something new and not being good and doing something new where the main thing you do is shit on fans, talk bad about the originals, and pretend you're better based on nothing but ego, all while the writing is bad. Don't even get me started on the writing, because when you listen to enough dialogue, you realize every character is basically the same person who repeats the same joke over and over, talk about the current situation, then immediately follow with a reference in a different tone. They're just one cutaway from being Family Guy. The only good things I can say is the animation, style, and hallucinations are good, and they toned down Velma's character this time around, but that's where it ends. Trying to be neutral is fine, but be an honest neutral cause. This seems more like an opposition than an actual neutral stance. Literally nowhere in it did I insinuate he was a bad person. 100% constructive criticism and disagreement on some of his takes.
Now, I know you're all wondering, well, how exactly did he start the argument? Here's what happened next.
You didn't say that part, but hundreds of others did, or telling me to take my own life every few minutes of every day for over a month, over some cartoon. That's not going to be accepted. It's not right. Take yourself out to the trash. I've already quit the channel like you wanted. Even after trying to come back and see if it was the same, just to be harassed again and told the same about how horrible of a person I am.
Again, you told them to take themselves out to the trash in your comment. It's so weird that you're so desperate to hold on to the "they started it" narrative when that's not the case. Next, you said they were obsessively replying to you, but you were also replying to them and sent out this reply first, again ignoring your part in this. Then you said they ultimately posted a Reddit post, but you also posted a community post, a tweet on Twitter, and even left a comment on someone else's YouTube video. But no, a singular comment on Reddit is just so evil of them. Lastly, you claim I defended them as some innocent victim, because they are. Get out of your own bubble and recognize simple facts. They didn't say anything rude. You put them in your video and cut out almost the entirety of their comment and went on to lie on someone else's video saying you tried to have a conversation and they dismissed you, when in reality it was the opposite. This is the problem with having a victim mentality. You do whatever you want, and when you're called out, You try to fall back on anything you can to deflect criticism.
This video tries to paint me as the only one wrong in that situation, but I stand by what I said that's being framed as hate here. I would do it again. As an autistic person, even small things can affect me deeply, especially being misunderstood or accused of insincerity.
I've already shown earlier that was a lie, and everything else basically proves my last statement.
Originally, I didn't even respond to everything he said either because I agreed with his critiques of the show or because I'd already answered that same thing to so many similar comments by that point that my head was swirling by his. But for him, that wasn't enough. He only grew more aggressive.
Yes, that's a very valid reason to tell someone else to take themselves to the trash in your first reply to them. By the way, that's sarcasm.
Legitimately had no idea that person had even posted the timestamp so controversial because I was literally going through a severe crisis off the internet that I was having to deal with simultaneously as when this person decided to suddenly show up and harass me for hours on end, from early night to sunrise, already stressed beyond my limits before it. And I was only ever seeing his aggressive replies in my notifications when I replied, not his original comment with the timestamp.
That was literally within the first sentence. Maybe instead of rushing to reply, you should have assessed the situation. And again, not seeing a timestamp is no excuse to tell a person to take themselves to the trash. It's so interesting how whenever you recount the situation, you speak of yourself in such a sympathetic light with all the excuses in the world, and then immediately follow up with the tone change and use words like harassment, aggressive, and obsession to describe the other person. You came off as aggressive in your reply. You put their comment in your video. You posted about them everywhere. Learn to see your own faults and accept that in this very specific situation, you're just deflecting your own actions onto someone else and can't and won't see that.
I could have just logged off. I could have just blocked him. But I'm autistic in crisis mode like that. My only thought is going to be having to defend myself from someone trying to attack me until I either feel I'm understood or I finally break.
You also could have just not told someone to take themselves to the trash as your first reply to their comment that doesn't attack you. I don't see that on the list.
And claiming I couldn't handle just a few mean comments completely ignores reality. Anyone will always lose me on that. I was receiving hateful comments every few seconds around the clock for months. It's not an exaggeration, yet videos and comments like this always act as if I'm weak for a few bad ones, despite dealing with YouTube comments for years. None of the actual worst of which I ever took a screenshot of because I didn't want to have to live with it and see it again. On that video, on other videos, on my community posts, because they were trying to find new ways to make sure their hurtful comment would get seen, if not there, even as recently as last week still, or that I should just use the YouTube comment filters, which I have always had up to the absolute maximum. When you're getting that many nasty comments, no amount of words entered for it to catch them or filters are going to stop them.
Now point out one time in my video where I said you were just getting a few mean comments. You can't.
While here, for the weird part trying to say I definitely knew who that random YouTuber was, I still don't know who they are any more than whatever was said about them in this video. This video tries to imply I should know who they are because the name is a reference to something at least, but I legitimately cannot tell you what the reference is supposed to be to, so I'm assuming it's something I have not heard of. I literally was being lazy and Googled videos about Velma or something for my season 1 commentary video, and that picture, which happened to have whoever that guy is, was the first stock image to come up. I've never seen a single video from anybody in that picture and was not implying them to be racist like the comment I brought up implied I was. In the first video, it was just to visualize how many people were talking about the show hatefully in general before even seeing it, which was accurate in use as far as I know. Likewise, when the clip of the first video was used again in the season 2 video that spawned that comment. We don't need to play the weird "you're lying about knowing who that person is" for sympathy game either when picking apart why I'm such a hateful person. I could debunk or point out why just about most of the rest of the video is wrong, but I'd rather not watch an hour of it again after how hurt I was the first time.
For those who don't know, he's referring to the yellow flash comment, and I literally said in my video
that might laugh at and delete, or even leave up and make a funny reply to, especially these days. It started out even laughable here, like saying some person I've never heard of isn't racist, when I didn't infer anything about anyone, and after making up whatever is going on in his head tries to say he was totally for sure interested, but I lied by saying something I did not say because I have never heard of that person, so gosh darn it, that's messed up and I lost him. That was funny, because what does any of that mean? It took me forever to even parse.
there's two options for yellow flash: the character reverse flash or the YouTuber yellow flash 2. Clearly we're talking about the YouTuber who made Velma videos himself, 39 videos to be exact. And there have been discussions on whether or not he's a racist. So not saying you did, but not saying you didn't either, because you took the videos down and did not provide proof, context, or clarification, and laughed it off as a joke. Ah yes, saying I don't know if you did or didn't is definitely me saying you knew who the YouTuber was. Scoobytopia is literally the equivalent of the boy who cried wolf.
I have no idea why this one person came back to my channel to find that video a month later and start all of this. You can say I was hateful toward him, but everything I said to him by the time the sun rose was deserved, and I would say it again. There's your autistically long comment I'm sure will confirm how poorly I'm thought of here. No one ever harassed this person before he turned this into an issue. He has more defenders than I ever will.
How many times must this be reiterated?
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
You put their comment in your video. You told them to take themselves to the trash. After they've reposted the parts you cut out of their original comment, you started the argument. You kept replying to them. Don't say you don't know why they left a comment on your video when you do stuff like that. You were definitely hateful, and there's no way you, a person who has 19,000 subscribers, are going to sit here and say they have more defenders than you do. Be for real.
And he had that coming, especially after persistently harassing me with increasing animosity for 8 to 9 hours straight and eventually gloating about it. He chose to do this at the same time I was already going through a personal crisis offline, all over a non-issue that was never even about him. Until he made it an issue that night, not a single person noticed or cared about his comment. The video wasn't about him, and nothing needed to be clarified because his comment was still visible on the original video. It wasn't censored or deleted.
So basically, only you can care about personal feelings and nobody else's matters. Very dismissive of you.
I tried to be reasonable with people, even those calling me a bad person in worse words for not disliking the show more. I snapped. But only after reaching a breaking point, especially since he chose that moment of crisis to pile on. Trying to frame him as an innocent bystander with a harmless comment is frankly misleading, especially with how he gloated after.
Let's see. My comment was cut out of context, and I want to clarify what I said. Scoobytopia's reply: take yourself out to the trash. I've already quit the channel like you wanted. Yes, very reasonable. How dare someone repeat their constructive comment? How dare someone not like being told to take themselves to the trash? Scoobytopia is always 100% right, and it's their fault for seeing the video when they did and leaving a comment of theirs you put in your video for the world to see. Very dismissive of you, Nate. I'm seeing a pattern here.
There's clearly a difference in how we each see the situation, and I don't expect that we'll ever agree on this if that's how you feel about bullies. I even pinned his comment for him so it wouldn't be lost to ensure him his clarification was visible until the video eventually was to go down as planned. When I finally realized which comment he meant, I even blurred his comment and username to make him feel better. None of this, however, was enough for him to just leave me alone and let me deal with the crisis I was going through. He only stopped once I finally had to disable replies and close everything down to keep him from returning. Then, as it turns out, he went on to gloat about it, which I had to learn about from here.
Yes, because only showing their name was the issue here. not using their comment in the first place, not cutting it out of context, not telling them to take themselves to the trash after they gave context, not stopping your subscribers from dogpiling onto them, just not blurring the name was the issue at hand. Your disregard for everyone else is impressive, yet you will be the first person to talk about nobody seeing your side of things. Practice what you preach.
It's also incorrect to claim that the video doesn't dismiss what happened. There's obviously the part suggesting I only got a couple of mean comments and couldn't handle it, misrepresenting the truth of how intense it was to get new comments every 5 seconds for over a month up to that point in time, or how the person reading comments repeatedly implies I was lying about not seeing the timestamp, making snide remarks that suggest I'm a bad person. I genuinely did not see the timestamp comment he made hours earlier, and as he sent more and more increasingly harsh messages, I was trying to understand what he was saying while already overwhelmed by an offline crisis.
Keep bringing up that timestamp over and over. Again, it was in the first sentence of his original comment. If someone keeps saying I left a timestamp in my comment, and you refuse to do the bare minimum and reread the original comment and rather die on the hill to claim you didn't see it, then that's on you. Nobody else's fault if you refuse to do the bare minimum. Same way the timestamp was left multiple times in different comments to you and you still claimed you didn't see it. Hindsight might be 20/20, but common sense definitely ain't so common. And I already touched on the mean comment claims, which is false. So these two things will be ignored going forward. Nate loves to repeat himself.
I don't know you, and it ultimately doesn't matter that you think I'm a bad person. I don't think you seem to be a very nice, understanding, or empathetic person either with this dismissive and rude reply, and I don't want to be in drama the rest of my life after what's happened this year.
I am going to remind you in advance that I'm very sorry and I apologize for the inconvenience of me not giving a fuck what you think. Look the fuck out of here.
Seriously, it's like this guy has pre-recorded dialogue. Everyone who isn't coming to his defense alone is unempathetic, dismissive, and rude. It's like watching an Elder Scrolls NPC.
That's why I left it behind. Obviously, it's true that I have challenges in perception because I'm autistic and mentally disabled. These differences make it harder for me to process hurtful behavior without it deeply impacting me, which is part of why I chose to leave YouTube for good after posting my planned farewell videos. Often, autism even makes it hard for me to interpret the tone of text, which is why I struggled to understand what he was trying to convey from the beginning. Watching this video and hearing myself called a liar over that timestamp situation hurt enough to cry, especially when I had been healing from this until now. Obviously, I don't perceive and experience things the same way you do with my disabilities and don't need to be on YouTube.
Difference is, you're not trying to understand someone's side, and even so, it doesn't give you a pass to say whatever you want. Again, for the 100th time, you told them to take themselves to the trash for giving context on a comment of theirs you put in your video and cut out of context. Just seems to always skip over that convenient little detail.
Since you're not mature enough quite yet to take criticism and won't let me further comment, I'll edit my response to your final response into this one.
Hey pot, meet kettle.
I doubt you have the interest in that. I spent a lot of time writing a mature and well thought out response, going over it carefully to ensure I communicated my perspective clearly to you despite the challenges I face with tone due to my autism. Yet all you could do was dismiss me with phrases like "hit dogs will holler," intentionally avoiding any actual engagement with what I said.
Keep in mind, his only stance on me refusing to engage and not see things from his perspective is that I'm holding him accountable for his actions. So yes, a hit dog will holler, and this one is screaming to the moon.
You aren't engaging with the substance of what I shared, instead choosing to undermine my words and avoid any real dialogue.
Same guy who repeatedly said, I'm not having a conversation with random, and then went on to another YouTube channel and said that random dismissed conversation. New theory video, Scoobytopia is actually an escaped NPC. Seriously, it's like he'll keep throwing that same thing out over and over and hoping one day it'll stick.
By reducing my attempts to communicate into questioning my character, you're purposefully shutting the door on any potential for constructive conversation despite suggesting you want that. To instead simply refer to me as immature for discussing my defending myself against an outright bully who decided to spend hours harassing me during what was one of the worst nights and situations of my life, something that would have likely played out in a much calmer state had it happened on any other night than that. And if he hadn't been so antagonistic, especially, you're intentionally shutting the door on having genuine dialogue because you aren't mature enough yourself to understand what happened.
If you're not here to put the contents of your character into question and challenge your own viewpoints, then you're not here for a constructive conversation. What Nate really means is, only see things from my side, everyone else is always wrong, and if you take up for them, you're rude and support bullies. Remind me who told who to take themselves to the trash again?
You're a stranger and not the ultimate judge of my actions, nor do you have right to dictate what is or isn't a valid response to being harassed or bullied, especially when you don't understand what people with mental disabilities, autism, or mental health struggles of my kind experience in these situations. Your refusal to engage in good faith, your continued use of manipulative phrases, and your inability to see things from my perspective don't erase the reality of anything that I went through. I doubt having a conversation elsewhere would change that.
Your comments show you can't have a conversation in good faith and just want people to take your side for everything. Who said I was the judge of anything? These screenshots from my original video shows your actions, and it's almost as if when you put something on the internet, multiple people will give their opinions on it. What a shocker.
Gasp! I never would have guessed.
And I would still do it again. If someone starts harassing me every couple of minutes for 9 hours while I'm in the middle of a severe crisis and unable to focus on what they're even saying, I will have the same reaction to that every time. Being immature and saying I'm making excuses instead of listening doesn't change what I experienced that night or at any other time.
Imagine trying to say you did not start what happened with that person when you clearly did.
That was the point. I did explain my experience. Being childish and putting it quotes doesn't change that. Obviously, I will note you being dismissive toward what I said, not only in the video, but in these very comments, because not once have you acknowledged anything that I've said in either. Even you clearly acknowledge that you are dismissive and biased here. I don't want to do an update video with you. I'm not giving you clout.
This guy needs new material, and this is exactly why I wanted to do this video differently. It would just be repeating over and over and over if I read every comment in full. He didn't say anything of substance. He banks on the same 3 points and stretches it out into full chapters. Points that I already debunked time and time again, and I have acknowledged what he said, and his only response was, it was deserved and I would do it again.
Ending it with being completely dismissive toward what disabled people have to go through shows the truth of how unempathetic and immature you are and why I would not want anything to ever do with you. And you can do what you want. It's okay that you're defensive because you realize you were wrong and don't want to have to admit it. Being condescending, manipulative, and ableist has already been shown to be the only things you have interest in. You can't change your morals.
Never was dismissive or ableist towards disabled people, and this comment came from me saying he was still able to grow as a person. No words of encouragement for you then, which he would unironically call hate.
I don't understand why you think passive-aggressive behavior would make anyone want to talk to you by choice to begin with. The emoji in particular before comes off as incredibly bothered and petty, but that doesn't have to be said out loud, obviously. That behavior is something you'll have to deal with later in your life.
Let's see here. You think my comment in video calling out negative things you did was manipulative and passive-aggressive. which wouldn't make someone want to talk to me. This sounds very familiar. Alright, roll the instant replay.
That's not going to be accepted. It's not right. Take yourself out to the trash. I've already quit the channel like you wanted. Even after trying to come back and see if it was the same, just to be harassed again and told the same about how horrible of a person I am. Stop saying your sob story as if I'm one of those people. It's pathetic, and on the worst end, it's manipulation to gauge a reaction out of people who scroll through comments to come to your defense and shut up any criticism. This is the exact reason why I bothered to repost my comment from your last video, since you clipped it out of context and continue to once again only respond to the end and not the comment as a whole. So, are you going to be real for once and address what my comment actually says? Or continue to play victim on anyone who shares a negative opinion on the show and act like it's directed at you personally?
All in all, this video is mostly debunking his very red flag claims. I really wanted to get him to explain his side of things, and yet this is what it turned into. Really funny and convenient that I'm able to just use my original video to debunk literally everything, because it's all there. Goes to show when you actually bother watching something in full to understand, you won't have to make baseless claims, and since this video is shorter, maybe people will watch it in full. See y'all in the next one.